everyone. Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends, get your gaming goodness every Monday at 6 a.m. And the best place to get your gaming content for 2021. Fucking boom, yeah. Fucking claiming the throne. Jay-Z, but not Kanye because we don't like him anymore. That album they did, that was a great album. Anyway, my name's Dylan Blight. Join me for this year and for this episode, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here. 2021, am I right?
Yeah.
What a great year.
Yes.
Down with orange people. The people who fight for orange people.
Also,
lucky there was no news that nothing in the world happened in between when we last recorded and when we
I mean, we don't really cover the election, so.
I was going to say, we're not a political show.
No, well.
I feel like we would have worked away.
I probably would have said something. I'm sure we would have had jokes, but that's fine. Also here, Ciaran Munchin.
And it's Ciaran Munchin. I'm here to represent all the video game Star Wars fans as I play for you your current anthem as we escape EA.
Wow, the podcast is officially copyright. Jesus Christ.
Thank God for loopholes, am I right?
Yeah. Put a pin in that because, we'll be coming back to Star Wars and EA in no time for sure. Also on the show today, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Village details. Gamers are horny about the toll lady, so we'll talk about that being horny because... It's a week. And then we're going to catch up on the news we've missed, including, as Ciaran just hinted at, Star Wars news, Lucasfilm news, some other bunch of news. Hitman 3 is the biggest game that's launched so far this year, so I'm going to talk about my impressions on that so far. But firstly, I just thought I'd just go, it's 2021. I don't know if anyone actually has a good answer to this question, but because I thought I would come in and go, hey, did you enjoy your break? What have you been playing? I don't know, everyone's going to go, I haven't really played fuck all. So I was like, well, that's not a very good way to start the first Arcade Couch year. So, Ash, are there any games adjacent, events, or whatever things that are tickling your fancies for 2021 that you can think of?
That I'm excited for?
Yeah.
Horizon. Forbidden West. Fingers crossed. Persona 5 Phantom Strikers. Just because the memes at this point, I feel it better come out this February, I'll tell you what. And then hopefully, all fingers crossed, PAX 2021. PAX Australia 2021.
I'm with you on that one. And I got all these people.
They changed their logo, so
yeah. They're hoping. On that, I'll say something real quick. I was one of the people, I see them post that or reply, I'm a gif of, whatever, it's nodding or whatever. A lot of people get excited. There were some people being a little bit of negative Nancy's, I thought. Don't get excited yet, the pandemic could still be happening. I'm like, look, no one's saying that if Australia goes to shit by October, we're going to just rock up all maskless and be a super spreader event.
Yeah.
But people are just trying to get their hopes up for an event. Leave them alone. Just fuck's sake. Ciaran, is there anything that...
I'm excited for 2021 to be a year where gaming kind of starts getting a little bit back on track in terms of having people at events. Not having... even though online shows are great and whatever, I think having live reactions of crowds is fantastic. I think E3 wasn't the same without its audiences and without its massive stage presentations. But hey, who knows if E3 is even going to do that this year. But really, I think this year, I think I could say I'm going to be excited for any one game, but I think at the same time, I'm just going to be excited to play whatever games do come out. I don't think... I want to be one game where there isn't pressure to be man, all these games are going to come out this year. We're probably going to get a billion delays again. I'm very excited for Deathloop when Deathloop comes around. I'm really excited for Ratchet & Clank when Ratchet & Clank comes around. But I'm very kind of still on the, there's going to be a lot of delays this year. I think it's just going to be part and parcel of gaming and as well as pretty much every industry that kind of does these release dates across the world.
So I have I've laid out my answers in my head as a couple of points. Firstly, a game that's because you don't want to look too far in the future. I don't want to, So a game that I know for sure, assume that it's definitely going to come out that I'm excited about is Ratchet and Clank. I feel like that one's a shoe-in. I feel like Horizon is a bit.
Horizon's weird. I'd love to know how much of Horizon was affected by the remote workforce and kind of how they've had to change the way they're working around in the
probably everything. But I mean,
for Guerrilla.
Like if I had to rank them, Ratchet and Clank, then Horizon, and then God of War still got that 2021 release date, and that's the one where I'm like,
way. There's no way. I can't see that happening.
So,
not unless it's a spin-off.
I mean,
There's
maybe.
no 2 on it.
Yeah, it's true. They never officially said the title. So I'd go Ratchet and Clank
You
as
play as Thor.
people won't like that.
A God of War Ragnarok where you play as Thor.
People ain't gonna like that. People ain't gonna like that.
No.
AAA game that I know is coming out, Ratchet and Clank. Indie game that I know should be out soon that I'm excited about. Your boy Fist, Game of the Year 2021.
Yeah.
It's happening this year, everyone. We've been waiting a while. Make sure you tune in the first episode of Platinum Explosion for 2021 this Wednesday. That was my cross promotional. And then I was going to say PAX as well, because obviously it's like it felt weird not having a PAX. It's just it was like when you start going every year for several years in a row, and you just expect to go rotate into a year and go to a PAX. So it's like, well, without that,
like it's kind of like the bookend of like the year almost in terms of okay, you reach PAX and then you kind of start working into the end of the year and you start winding down. And like when we got to the point when we had our break for Explosion Network this year, I was like, doesn't really feel like we should be taking a break yet. Like it doesn't feel like we really.
I'll tell you what, I felt like I deserved it.
I know Dylan did, and you know what, people? It was a wild achievement that Dylan actually took a break for once. It was amazing.
Yeah.
How
many games did you play? None.
I played. There was one night where Buddy, shout out to Radio Watson, Buddy Watson, where he messaged me and was like, "Can you just play fucking like? Are you gonna ever play video games?" And I think that was like somewhere towards the 14th, 15th, or something around that date. And I played a couple hours of Call of Duty. What's it called? Cold War. Right. I played a couple hours of multiplayer of COD Blops, and that's it. That's all I've played on my break until this week, where I'm going to talk about some things we've been playing this week. But that's it. But I've got a lot of content for What Do You Want to Watch. So tune into What Do You Want to Watch this Friday, 6 a.m. Australian episode. It's going to be a 5-hour episode as I discuss everything I fucking watch. But I got to be honest, like I don't like I feel like I can have this conversation. It doesn't really matter what I have it, but for like the whole, I definitely feel like, and I did it last year, where we take a couple of weeks off Explosion Network and I just don't want to play games really. Not because I'm like, oh, I feel like so forced to play games constantly, but it is the thing that I do the most of throughout the year.
Let's be for real. Especially like you should have been burnt out. Any normal human being should have been burnt out somewhere like last April time, where you like squeezed out that 100 plus hours of Persona 5 and then ran into Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
And I did Doom as well somewhere around it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was
yeah.
And Last of Us, you ran into that, and we were doing playthroughs for Last of Us. I think there's a lot of work, and I feel like anybody who's in reviews, especially your smaller media forums and networks, it's a hell of a lot of work, and anybody who is able to pump out that many games and do everything is impressive as fuck.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, sometimes I wish we were just a movie website, because I'm like, man, 90 minutes of watching something and then just write a review and talk about it.
Have an opinion.
Fucking yes, please. Fucking some of these games, like, oh, you got 50 hours, and then you got to fucking spend the time writing a review. And I'm like, get out of here, fucking junk. Anyway, I think I said everything I was excited for. And then, my last thing was just going to be the surprises, because I know something's just going to surprise me. It does every year, and then it'll probably end up being one of my favorites of the year. And that's usually the most exciting things.
As Hades kind of was for a lot of people last year.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever
it wasn't a surprise, but
for a lot of people it was. Like for people who weren't paying attention through the early access, I guess. So yeah, whatever fills that sort of box, I guess, is the thing I'm most excited about. Especially because it's the first official year of the next gen consoles. With Like they only came out a couple months ago. I know it seems like we've had them for years at this point, kind of. They settle into your house and you're like, okay, there they are. After all that time of talking about them. Anyway, so looking forward to some exciting things that they probably just haven't announced. I've had to pick one thing for every sort of console. Since I did a PlayStation one, would be Ratchet at the moment. Xbox would probably be Hellblade. Senua's Saga at the moment, and then my Nintendo one would probably be whatever Pokemon game they reveal, they bring out for the 25th anniversary, because they're going to bring out something for the 25th anniversary. So,
and I think in general, I'm just excited, especially for the next generation of gaming on the new consoles, is to just start getting more experiences that are built for those consoles. I think, as you know, many of the games were either prepared for the last generation or kind of built for that hybrid name. Aren't getting people using the fantastic DualSense for the PlayStation 5. You know,
so Ratchet and Clank's all going to be. All those weapons are going to feel different. They're going to feel different. It's going to be intense. No load times or whatever. I don't know. It's like even playing. That is a point to that, because even playing Hitman 3 this week, you know, it's like it's a cross-generational game and it runs at 60 frames per second, and that's nice and everything. But load times are nearly non-existent. Oh, that's nice. But you can tell it's not a next. But
the fact is, like, it's the same with playing through Immortals: Phoenix Rising. Is the fact that yes, the load times are super short, but at the same time, I'm still seeing a load screen.
Yeah,
there's still a load screen animation.
I think that's what Hitman does. It pops up for like 1 second or 1.5 seconds.
It pops up for like 1 or 2 seconds, but it's not that seamless. My comparison is always going to be currently the fast travel in Spider-Man Miles Morales, because that shit is instantaneous and is insane. Yeah,
because that's built for it. Where these games are built for the old system, so they still kind of go through the loop of having to load and then being like, and we did it fast, and then we're back. But it always cuts to the load screen, and I feel like it takes longer for those games to load into the load screen and then go zing done, and then load out of the load screen. Like the transitions,
very much so.
Transitions take longer than the actual loading of data. All right, let's get into the main topic. Big piece of news that's come out this past week. Resident Evil did I think they just called it Resident Evil Showcase from memory. Yeah. 9 o'clock. Firstly, I want to say 9 o'clock Friday. I was like, wow, what a concept to be able to watch something like this at 9 a.m. Australian time and not at fucking 4, 5, 3 a.m. or something like that. I was like, man, this is some good shit. Like this is why when I like when the streams are coordinated for Japan time, not American time, because then they work out quite well for us, not for American times, but that's great. So what they showed off was they had a brand new cinematic trailer. They had gameplay sort of walkthrough demo, showed off some combat monsters, introduced us to some new characters and places we haven't seen before, including the main centerpiece of all these trailers was this big castle mansion. Then you got these vampire women, and you've got their leader, who everyone on the internet was just calling the tall lady, but her name's like Lady something or other. I didn't actually look it up, because 99% of the internet's just going to call her tall lady for the rest of her fucking life. So it's like starts with D or something like that. Lady Dom something. I don't know. Anyway, tall lady. Everyone loved her.
If it was a man, they know his name.
Nah.
Oh, I don't. That's not.
I don't know. They didn't even say in the trailer. It was released in a little blurb thing after anyway. And then let's focus on that, because the other stuff wasn't that exciting, but I'll cover it after this briefly. Ciaran, what did you make of the trailer for Resident Evil Village, and are you excited for what you saw?
I'm really excited for it. I think it looks fantastic. Like, I really like it. I think Resident Evil 7 is actually quite a good looking game in terms of graphical kind of nature, and I think this game looks even better and it's more stunning. I have one pet peeve that I really hate, and this trailer once again brought it out, where it is, especially the last kind of generation of games, where developers started putting in random choices in games, but it's quite clear that those choices actually don't matter. And so Resident Evil 7 had a choice in it, and because this is a direct follow-on, it's clear that there is one canon choice, and that shits me. It's like, what's the point of having the choice?
So as someone who hasn't played Resident Evil 7, but at this stage is well aware that I deserve to have it spoiled for me because we're talking about the sequel, what is the choice?
There's a choice to keep it's to choose who gets a vaccination for the virus they've got on. And one of them is either Ethan's, I can't remember her name now, but Ethan's girlfriend or wife or partner. The other one is like some other random character. Okay. And even the choice in Resident Evil 7 is actually ends up being semi-pointless. But yeah,
so in this, that it would have been his wife or girlfriend. Or
yeah, yeah, like quite clearly, it is like she has to be in this for this story to make sense. I think actually this trailer reveals a fair bit about the story in one way or another, as to kind of
it's Ethan's daughter. Years later, after 7, is kidnapped by, it seems, Chris Redfield. Taken to wherever this is, fucking Scandinavia or some
Europe.
shit.
It's
Europe somewhere.
It's somewhere in Europe.
I'm presuming it's fucking Scandinavia because, I don't know, vampires and shit. And then Chris Redfield gives the daughter to someone here, presumably for some fucking weird reason. He's also on the cover, the box art cover, where half his face is a werewolf, so read into that as you will. And then the other stuff we got from the trailer, I guess, is that the tall lady says you escape from her brother, so I presume that's where you kind of start the game, and this is after that. And then also she's on the phone in the cinematic trailer talking to someone called Mother Miranda, who I would presume, based on the way she was talking about her, that she presumably, I'm going to say, is straight up just the mother of her and her brother, right? It's just a whole family affair, much like Seven's a family affair. That's how I
can definitely see this continuing the trends of Resident Evil 7, whereas different portions of the game will be centralized around a different family member of this kind of vampire, werewolf family, whatever. I was like watching it at first. I was like, "Oh, cool! We're doing this werewolf vampire thing. Cool." At the same time, Resident Evil without zombies is kind of sad. I wish I like there being zombies in this game. Because even Resident Evil 7 didn't have zombies. It had like weird creatures. But then the zombies popped up in this, and I was like, holy fuck, that is that looks awesome. Like, that looks really great. Like, just the small horde of zombies they have walking towards Ethan.
In the outside
in the underground, like low light area. Yeah, where they had like hoods and stuff up. Looked really cool. Like, I'm really excited. Like, there is definitely, you watch it and there are definitely moments where you're like, oh, that's a puzzle. Oh, they're showing this weird statue. That's a puzzle. That's a puzzle. Like, that's something you have to pick up. So it screams Resident Evil. Like, it just looks fantastic, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I really like this trailer. I was liking all the vibes, and it just made me really just want to actually go play 7 finally.
Also, you should go play 7. It's a really good game, and I was really happy that I streamed it. But my God,
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I streamed my whole playthrough of Resident Evil 7.
That like 2007?
3 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, like our first year?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was when we were actually streaming on Twitch. But but can you imagine this game if this game takes advantage of PlayStation's 3D sound via
it does.
Like, the headset? Oh my God, that's gonna be creepy as shit.
I can confirm as someone who played the demo that it does have 3D audio.
That's way worse. And, that's gonna be so bad.
It's rather creepy at times. So here's my 2 questions, I guess, before I kind of move on to other things like demo impressions on whatever. Do you actually believe these are vampire ladies and there's werewolves? And do you think that Chris Redfield's a bad guy? Like, what the fuck's going on there?
It wasn't this trailer, but the last trailer, the first one they released for this, like a card popped up with like writing that says his story will end here or come to a close. And a lot of people were either speculating if this was talking about Ethan or Chris. And I think this trailer now leads it a little bit towards Chris. I think a little bit more now, we give him that context as well as seeing the box art of him with a werewolf. I think it's an interesting event to happen to make Chris Redfield a fucking werewolf. That is, if that is true, that's a hell of a choice. But I think it all lines up overall. Like, I really like it. I think it's to continue to build out this. I don't want to say it's not like it's a bit smaller than a cinematic universe they're building for Resident Evil, but they are very much building a world that's just like filled with these horrors and creatures and monsters. And like, we saw that very early on with Resident Evil 5 was the first one Resident Evil 4 was the first one they stepped away majorly from the
straight up
T-virus.
Yeah,
where they to the villages in Resident Evil 4. And I think especially in Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil and now Resident Evil 8, they're really doubling down on building out this world a lot more and stepping away from your usual like Raccoon City and all that kind of nonsense. It's more building out and actually creating a more kind of fulfilled world narratively, which I think is really exciting and really interesting that there's all these like fucked up things. And man, Ethan is just an unlucky guy. Like he's just gets thrown in the middle of everything. It's it's quite interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how things from Resident Evil 7 flow over to this for Ethan and the characters in general.
Yeah, I think they've got a better idea at Capcom of what they want to do with the franchise going forward. And that's why they're taking the franchise in this like more supernatural direction. And then when they keep releasing the remakes of games, they're changing subtle things to help them all actually connect and make more sense now instead of. So it's like they're sort of just making them all make more sense towards, because often it was like, okay, so we went from 3 to 4, and then from 4 to 5, you're like, what?
4 to 5 is a weird jump where it's like, right, we're playing as Chris now, we're in Africa.
Yeah,
okay, interesting.
Like different strain, and they make as much sense as the 6 movies they made, so it all adds up. The other thing they announced that, so the only other thing they really announced game wise was a PvP 6-player deathmatch game that will come free with this. It's not going to do very well. I'll straight up say it now. The multiplayer that they released with the 3 remake, no one gave a fuck about. And all this stuff. They keep trying to make these PvP Resident Evil games, and everyone goes, we don't want to play that.
No, thank you.
Like, that's not what we're here for.
What was that Resident Evil game they released a number of years ago where you played as like an Umbrella Team Fire Squad?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's
supposed to be like
Corpse or something. Umbrella Corpse.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it was just
they all seem like just rehashes or like, let's try that. And this was like, well, it's got like this comic book art style. Cool. I guess.
Like,
So that's about it.
Do you think that there is somebody within the Resident Evil franchise, or the owners of the Resident Evil franchise, that is like working on building this in stream? Like, we know we've got that weird Resident Evil Netflix show that's about the 4 kids in Raccoon City or whatever.
Well, so you've got the animated one that they talked about in this stream coming to Netflix.
Yep.
Which they've done a few of at this point. You've got the Netflix project you're talking about with the kids. You also have a reboot Resident Evil franchise movie coming this year.
Yeah, that's a lot of Resident Evil.
And they're all separate. And they're all
separate, which actually makes me a little bit sad. I wish there was some kind of connection or linkage between the 3 of them, other than the fact that it's just got the Resident Evil title card on it.
Yeah, I don't know. So a couple of Resident Evil news stories here. VG247 writes that Capcom rebooting Resident Evil 4 Remake project pushed to 2023. A new report states that Studio M2, which contributed to Resident Evil 3 Remake, is no longer in charge of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and that the game may be pushed to 2023, according to a report on VGC. Some disagreements between Capcom and M2 have led to the latest role in the Resident Evil 4 Remake to be quite significantly reduced, with Capcom Division 1 taking over development. The report states that the disagreements stem from M2 wanting to remain faithful to the original Resident Evil 4, particularly due to the backlash received from RE3's remake over its exclusion of, quote, significant portions of the original PlayStation game. Capcom instead wants the game to be more or less inspired by the original, with a different take on various elements not part of the original, similar to Resident Evil 2's use of Mr. X. How does that make you feel, Karen?
Okay, so Resident Evil 2 and 3 I think are okay to mess around with because I think there's a larger time gap between those games and between a lot of people playing those games. Them tinkering and tampering with Resident Evil 4 it's put me in 2 minds, because A, it makes me a little worried, because Resident Evil 4, in my opinion, is one of the greatest games ever created. It's fucking amazing, and it was kind of mind-blowing at the time of its release. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff to fix in Resident Evil 4. A lot of the mechanics around Ashley is probably not going to play well anymore. Chucking her in garbage bins every 5 minutes is probably not the way to go.
The whole game it's very fucking weird, so I mean...
So I think if they can change that around and fix that up, yep. But I think there is a lot to love and a lot to keep about Resident Evil 4 as well at the same time. And also, Leon is... I hope it's like they can continue making Leon so good, because I think they did a really good job of kind of making Leon a more fulfilled character with the Resident Evil 2 remake. So to see him come through that same Leon come through to Resident Evil 4 and be a more fulfilled character throughout this as well will be really fun to see. as well as I can't wait to see in beautiful 4K the shopkeeper and just the classic, well, how's it going, stranger? Like, just that'll bring a tear to my eye when I first hear that while playing it. The only thing is that it's going to be kind of... Does that mean, do you guys think that there'll just be no Resident Evil game next year? 2022 will just be a year without a Resident Evil game?
Resident Evil Chronicles 3.
Okay, so that's no.
Something like that.
That'd be weird that'd be interesting if they brought out the Code Veronica games again,
or something like that.
Or if they did Resident Evil 0 or Resident Evil 1 properly, because they're
just going to put out a tie-in to the animated series.
They could do. That could be a possibility.
We could go a year without one. I mean, we're kind of just used to it because of the last couple of years.
We will live.
So, like, people are just getting used to a Resident Evil at the start of every year over the last couple of years. But
and this year actually has felt a little bit weird that there hasn't been a Resident Evil kind of in the next like couple of weeks. Like normally January, end of Jan, start of Feb. There's normally
it's only been 2 years where they've had one.
Still feels good. Ashley, you were like breaking down the door at PAX Australia when Resident Evil 2 was there before release.
Never lived this down.
Out of all of us, like you should be the one that is most outraged by there not being a Resident Evil game this year.
No, take your time, guys. Yeah. You don't want to be another Cyberpunk.
VG247 also said that Resident Evil 7 is apparently going to receive next-gen upgrade treatment. That's according to Aesthetic Gamer, aka Dusk Golem, aka a known and accurate leaker who said on Twitter that Capcom was working on an upgrade for Resident Evil 7 for Microsoft and Sony's new machines. Look, I would like to believe this, but to be honest, I would find it weird that if that was happening, it wasn't announced at the showcase, because it would be like, hey, here's a release date. By the way, I forgot to say the release date. It's fucking it's May 7th. Yeah, that's it, May 7th. May 7th, Resident Evil Village, in case you didn't know. It would have been weird for them to give that release date and then not go, and hey, by the way, you should play 7 on your PS5 and Xbox Series X. Hey, here you go. So I don't know.
Unless they're not going to do
This is an upgrade. This is a next gen upgrade they're talking about.
Okay.
But this could be, but they could do it. Capcom could be really nice and be like, hey, we're just giving you it for free. Like, we're not going to make you buy another one.
No.
They could do that. They could do the free upgrade. No, they could do the free upgrade.
They could do the free upgrade. I think that would be a really smart decision to get people to buy it.
Not if you got it on PS Plus, like if you actually bought it.
Well, either. I don't think it's worth kind of going one way or the other. I just think it's a really good, like, it'd be an interesting marketing decision.
Because it just costs no money.
I just wish that if they were going to do this, they would have announced it, because here I am like, I should play 7 before 8, but then I read reports of remakes and I'm like, I don't know. Don't make me wait. Don't make me Persona 5 Royal this shit.
Don't make me Persona 5 Royal. Well, I don't think it'll be a remake. I just think it'll be a...
It'll just up-res.
It'll just make it look prettier. Even though, it's already a good-looking game. It'll just... Depending possibly.
Like, make the things you're looking at uglier.
Oh, yes. I see what he's doing.
But in high resolution.
The monsters.
More pixels.
It would just be a high frame rate, increased fidelity type thing, but...
Wouldn't that make it easier? So it would make it
maybe some ray tracing.
Maybe
like whack some rays in there.
Whack some rays in there. Whack some
just chuck a couple of rays on top of some of the monsters, and you're good.
Yeah, sure.
You can see the reflections of all the drool coming down these zombies' faces.
Yeah, you can like look at your Ethan's scared face at each single tear of
glistening.
Either way, I'm moving Resident Evil 7 to the top of my. It's the next thing I gotta do.
It's the next thing that's going to get added to the crappiest Photoshop job.
I don't know if I'm doing that for this year. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Don't know. That was the thing. But I mean, I don't know. It's maybe. One review, my first review up for 2021. I'll quickly go over it because it's just a small game, so there's not too much to say. But it's a funny little game. By the way, the first game I play and beat that's not that couple hours of COD. I was like, wow, I picked a good one. It's called Nuts, and it's it's a squirrel surveillance game. It has a really nice sort of two-tone comic booky, I don't know what you call it, art style. the game is it takes about 2 to 3 hours to beat. It's somewhere between like Firewatch and squirrel surveillance, like sort of stuff. But you basically arrive in this forest and this woman's talking to you on the phone. So lots of Firewatch vibes there. And you get told, hey, your job out here is to find out what the squirrel's up to. And you do that by having... you can go out into the forest and you have you start with one camera and then you get 3 after the first couple squirrels, and you kind of just have to place the 3 cameras in a certain area based off where you think the squirrel is going to be and which direction it's going to head. Then you head back to your caravan or whatever the fuck it is, and you hit the record. It skips to nighttime, and then you have to fast forward and rewind the footage to figure out and track this squirrel. And then you go to the next day and you're like, okay, well the motherfucker went this way, so now I'm going to move my cameras on top of this rock, on top of this hill, and you got to try and track it back to its base. Yeah.
How long did it take you to find out that all of the squirrels had gone to Mark Robin's parkour course?
What a meme. You should have wrote the review. You've done the game. It's fucking... It's better than anything I had. No, it does get kind of weird, though. It's like, at first, it's like, hey, you just track these squirrels. You're like, this is fun. And then you go to the 6 levels, and they kind of change different areas of this forest you're in. And the second one, you track this squirrel back to a cave, and it's got dynamite there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a little bit weird. Like, I don't know why the squirrel has dynamite, but that seems kind of dangerous.
So it also does the thing that Firewatch did, where it started to get weirdly interested, and then it totally shits the bed at the end with some crappy explanation.
I don't know. Its story, its narrative definitely kind of overshoots its gameplay, because as I said, it's a 2 to 3 hour game. So the gameplay for what it is for the 2 to 3 hours, I never got bored. But if it'd been 4 to 5 hours, I would have got bored. You know what I'm saying? Like it's good for what it is, because it never really stretches outside of what it is.
In and out.
Hey, yeah, you're like, yeah, play it. You're like, this is a good time. I'm tracking these squirrels. This is kind of fun. Whatever. You beat in a couple hours. Like that was a fun little experience. But it definitely didn't overstay its welcome. But you could see in another world it would have. My one big problem with the game is that it never really threw a harder mechanic at you outside of just what you learned at the start, which is you kind of get a rhythm of how you track the squirrel, and by the time you reach the last level, you're like, well, I'm still kind of just doing the same shit. I know they're chucking a few different things at you by having like multiple squirrels that you got to track at times, or rain conditions and stuff, but I'm like, no, this is really making it particularly hard. But anyway, so that's nuts. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Full review, ExplosionNetwork.com, of course. That gets the Steam Award of first 2021 review.
I will say it's weird that they're using DSLR cameras. I would have thought they'd use GoPros or something.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't understand the technology and how.
It's like, what kind of batteries are they?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no cords. They're literally just cameras sitting on top of these things. But I'm like, whatever. I won't question the logic. It's fine. All right, cool. Let's get into some other news for this week. So, first one, Australian one that I thought was worth calling out. So, Big Ant Studios, who is developer of games like Dod Bradman Cricket, Cricket 19, IO Tennis, Kotaku put up a story saying that French video game publisher Nacon has acquired them for a maximum price of $54.8 million. Kotaku writes, a total acquisition price is a little malleable, according to the official release. In the terms and conditions, Nacon has agreed to pay a net price of 15 million euros, net cash and debt when the goal is signed, with another earnout payable after March 31st, 2024. Financing aside, the deal is probably the most significant and sizable acquisition of an Australian studio in recent memory. Interestingly, Big Ant is aiming for 9.4 million in operating profit for 2021 to 2022. Notable only because it's quite rare to see the financials of any Australian game dev studios, given most of them aren't publicly traded companies. So I feel like most people know who Big Ant are. If you don't care for their sports games, they're definitely one of Australia's biggest and longest at this point video game developers that have been kicking around. Love or hate their sports games, that's kind of up to you, but this is still quite a big deal, and I'm like, how the stars align to have that French publisher come into talks to pick them up. You know, it's quite a weird world, but good for them, I guess. You know, got to be interesting what's going to happen forward.
I don't know if you know this still, but I'm a very well-known insider in French developers and French buyers of companies. And I actually have direct inside kind of recordings of it, and I'll just play for you now. This big ant game developers. They made the French cricket team no good. We buy them and we make them the best.
Wait. France has a cricket team?
Probably.
Yes.
I actually have no idea. I assume France doesn't play sport.
Like a amateur one to fill out the World Cup, you know? Just make up the numbers.
I got to be honest. As a non-sports guy, when I heard French publishers brought a sports studio, I went, France isn't really known for sports, are they? Like, they're known for arts. Are they?
Dylan.
What?
France's football team is often, football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, but it's quite successful.
But does that count?
That's like 2 or 3 World Cups.
Doesn't every little village in England and Europe just have a soccer team? Doesn't count.
Well, they do, yeah.
Doesn't count.
But I think
France is one of the top 4. I think.
So England's only won the World Cup once, and France has won it like 2 or 3 times.
So you're telling me Big Ant's going to be making a FIFA competition?
Big Ant
Probably
is going
not.
to be playing the.
Wow.
I gotta be honest, this recording has a lot of times up really well to what I'm saying, and came in at the right times there. So yeah, good job on that. All right, talking about other acquisitions type news. Kotaku also writes, report Vicarious Visions is working on a Diablo 2 remake. So earlier today, when they wrote this, Activision announced Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 1+2 developer Vicarious Visions has been absorbed. What a word to use. Absorbed by Blizzard to provide support on future projects. A few hours later, we now know that one of those projects is Diablo 2 Remake. According to Bloomberg, Vicarious Visions has been supporting Blizzard's Team 3, which is also responsible for the upcoming Diablo 4, for several months in developing a remake of 2000's Diablo 2, far and away the most popular game in the role-playing franchise. The remake was originally under the purview of Team 1, the group responsible for the much maligned Warcraft 3 Reforged before the project was eventually handed over to Team 3 sometime last year. Team 1 has since been dissolved, with some employees transferring to new jobs at Blizzard and the rest let go. So I got to be honest, when I woke up and saw this Saturday morning when it posted, I was like, well, that's a bit fucked, eh? And then I scrolled through my Twitter and everyone else was going, well, that's a bit fucked, eh? So I was like, there you go. That's great. I feel like,
I guess it was a big fuck.
yeah, it was a bit fucked. I mean,
everybody was feeling that.
I mean, it really, like, it's nothing against Blizzard. Like, I'm sure it's good that all those people will hopefully, Vicarious Visions, maybe they'll, as long as they're getting paid, whatever, I'm sure they're happy or whatever. But obviously, it's hard not to be like, yous were doing really cool things over there,
Surely they had, proven their value in terms of how good they've been with, Tony Hawk 1 and 2.
They had, and they were like, remake Diablo.
Yeah, no, exactly. Blizzard's like, but thing is, right, Blizzard's like, hey, you can go do what you want. And Activision was like, hey, you guys can do what you want. They find out that they're doing a really good job doing the work for kind of somebody else. They're like, hey, idiots, come over here, work for our team.
They're doing it for Activision.
Yeah, but Activision was being weird. They're like, man, just come on over and just make Blizzard seem cool.
I guess they don't make Activision Con, so
save Diablo.
No, there's no Activision Con. There is a BlizzCon, and everyone loves that. Everyone is always happy when they attend those things. And
well, as long as they don't announce a mobile Diablo game. As long as they don't do that.
Assuming we're getting Diablo 4 sometime in the next
24 months.
2 years.
Yeah, I'd say
it'll
2
be.
years.
Well, I think it's
Do you
even
really
pushing
want
it.
a Diablo 2 remake?
I think a lot of people would. Diablo 2 is undeniably one of the kind of is for a lot of PC gamers is a very special game because Diablo.
I was going to say, I think the big difference is a remake of Diablo, people can sink a couple hundred hours into it. Be like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is a great game. Diablo 4, when that eventually comes out, will be like, it'll be on the, seasonal rotations, much like 3 was. And
yes,
it'll be more, whereas 2 is like, here's a great remake of the game you'll love, but we're not like constantly updating it and making new content. So
exactly.
you can have both released like a year apart and it'll be like fine.
Especially with like Blizzard has kind of, and it'll be interesting to see this coming February BlizzCon and what they announce or how they kind of position themselves. But even in terms of like Overwatch and Overwatch 2 is kind of, even that's looking like it's going to be the end of this year possibly. Even though it was announced like 2 years ago now. It's I think Blizzard has not handled the change of scenery in terms of working remotely, and
I think they were having a lot of problems prior to last year.
Yes, exactly.
They were having a lot of problems with getting this Warcraft Diablo 4 game apparently behind the scenes. The stories go, they were like scraping it, starting it again, and apparently Overwatch 2 was having a lot of problems of similar issues of just management issues of what are we doing, scrapping it, starting again, like changing things, blah 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 blah. So I don't know how a remake of Diablo 2 fixes any of those issues, but it's kind of, I gotta be honest, I'm kind of disappointed. That's straight up how I feel about it. I'd rather have seen Vicarious Visions just kick around doing these fantastic remakes of some older games, and everyone loved them. Like, you know, no one was like, oh, Crash, Spyro, any of those. I know they didn't make all of them, but that whole thing of Activision between Toys for Bob and them, like all of those remakes, everyone was like, this is good shit. Do some more of these. Remake something else. Make a new one.
Their remakes are quite different too, obviously, Diablo, so it's like quite a jump. So
yeah, I don't know. Here's
my question.
Yeah.
Do they retire the name Team 1, or are they going to make a new Team 1?
No,
or does everybody get promoted?
It's a stupid fucking name. I hate how they're like, oh, we've got Team 1, Team 2, Team fucking bananas in pajamas. Look, I'm B1 and this is B2. Silly. Come on. Even at least Ubisoft and other places are like, well, this is Ubisoft.
Sorry.
Montreal.
Did you just take a shot at the bananas in pajamas in the middle of our podcast?
No. It was just a reference. It wasn't a shot. It's fine.
It was just you weren't. So you. Okay,
I'll take a shot. No, you want to hear my bananas and pajamas? You want to hear my bananas and pajamas? Jammy, Jimmy, jammers. Say that 10 times. I'll take a fucking shot at those fucking orange peels. Ready? I'll fucking. The new animation style that they've done for like the last 10 years or whatever, fuck that shit.
I'm not going to defend the current bananas.
The old one?
Like the OG.
With those real motherfuckers in those suits, sweating their asses
Bring
off.
back the suits.
Yeah.
The real fucking bananas that
you know people are still walking around in those suits. Just put a camera.
Way to get rid of jobs, Australia.
Sure, all these people spent hours and hours animating those, but
nah. What about the 2 people in the suits, Ash?
Listen, you talk about things ruining your childhood.
Yeah, they did. Guys, they ruined my childhood.
This is a video game podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a bananas and pajamas podcast. Right, next news story. Talking about people on the internet complaining about things, I guess. So Lucas, let me rush through a couple tied in this way. So Lucasfilm, firstly, is now a game company. So LucasArts, to set this up, people remember LucasArts from the 90s. They did a lot of...
Oh, yeah. They did Monkey Island.
They did Monkey Island, all that stuff. That was it. That was the thing, right? So then they...
Can I say, I was low-key disappointed when I realized this, because when I first saw this when I woke up, I was like, oh my god, we're going to get a new Monkey Island game.
You and half the internet from what I saw, I think. So that is a thing that is still dead. And this news story does not make any of that any better. So what is back is you've now got Lucasfilm Games, which from the sounds of it is simply just going to be a logo.
It's the equivalent of Marvel games.
Yeah. Yes.
There'll be people overseeing it.
Yes.
But
yes, that's exactly
just a vehicle.
Yes.
An umbrella for their IPs.
Yes.
That's a really smart decision from Luke. Well, in that point of view, where you can give these great kind of studios entitlement to Lucas properties, but then also at the same time be like, okay, but at the same time have people just being there just to kind of oversee shit and make sure canonically it fits, or kind of make sure it can like fit into whatever other plans you've got going on. Well, I think that works really well.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what it's going to be. A couple of people that'll, kind of like as I said, you've got the Marvel Games people that are sort of in charge of doing the wheeling and dealing for Marvel games, and you're going to have the Lucasfilm Games people working out what's happening here. So, yeah, I woke up that morning when that news dropped and everyone was like, oh my God, they're back. I'm like, they're not back. I don't like,
really.
but sure, whatever. So this ties into the next two stories, obviously. So let's start the bigger one, which is it was Kotaku writes Ubisoft Massive is making an open world Star Wars game. Ubisoft is partnering with the newly launched Lucasfilm Games to make an open world game based in the Star Wars universe. Wide reports this apparently signals the end of EA's previous exclusivity deal regarding the development of Star Wars games. Ubisoft Massive, the studio behind The Division, will be leading development on the new Star Wars adventure with Julian Garrity, who oversaw The Division 2 and The Crew as creative director. Wide also reports that the game will make use of Ubisoft Massive's Snowdrop engine, the same one used for The Division 2, but said Lucasfilm Games hasn't yet revealed when and where in the Star Wars universe the game will take place. So let's just quickly get the facts out. EA is still apparently making Star Wars games. To which I say, of course they fucking are. Most people love Jedi Fallen Order and it sold like hotcakes. So you're getting more
definitely.
of them.
Yep.
Their exclusivity deal apparently ends 2020. It was supposed to end like 23, I think it was.
It's the 10-year deal is true.
Yes, so that was apparently supposed to end in 2023. So in that case, I would
maybe this doesn't come out till 2023.
I would assume at this stage, the earliest you see the Ubisoft game is 2023, and probably thereafter. Let's start with you then, Ciaran, since you're the one who had the jokes at start. How do you feel about all this news, Ubisoft making a Star Wars game, EA no longer having the hold on the license and whatnot?
I feel really good, like really optimistic for it, because I think we've seen up until Jedi Fallen Order, I think in general EA had just massively dropped the ball with all Star Wars attempts at games and content. Even though the Battlefront games were good, they just still didn't seem to quite hit the mark with everything. And I think it was just the fact that up until Fallen Order was announced and kind of came out and did really well, the only Star Wars games we were getting were Battlefronts, which I think Star Wars has the potential to be so much more than that. Yes, we had Old Republic is still kicking around and doing whatever it wants to do. But I think in the mainstream AAA kind of scene, I think there's plenty of room for more Star Wars. I think it's a perfect time for them to start developing. I would love to find out that this game is set during the new kind of High Republic timeline that we're currently kind of looking into and starting to explore as like the Star Wars community and Star Wars in general. I think it'd be absolutely fantastic if they like kind of continue to kind of push into that territory with the video game. But at the same time, it was just the fact that the exclusivity deal, I think, was the biggest problem. Like, I don't mind EA doing those games. I just think there should be the availability and viability for other studios to get a chance to work on Star Wars properties. We saw how amazingly Insomniac did with Spider-Man. I think if other studios get the opportunity to do that with a Star Wars property and title, I think that's going to be fantastic and a really good thing for both gamers and Star Wars fans.
I would put a big chunk of money that Marvel's Insomniac Spider-Man had a big part in Star Wars. Lucasfilm looking at this and going, maybe that's how we should be doing our gaming licensing going forward. Mm-hmm. They looked at Marvel's Avengers and went, mediocre one. Marvel's Spider-Man, they went, great one. Maybe it's better not to put all our eggs in one basket.
One basket, yeah.
Ash, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's good for gamers because we're likely to get more games more frequently. I mean, they can't cancel all of them, so more Star Wars, I guess. I guess it just depends on what and where and when.
That's the only thing. I look forward to the day where Star Wars in video games is mentioned and I don't think about freaking 1313 because that game just seemed like it was going to be so good.
Here's my hot take. That game would never have been as good as everyone likes to talk about it.
Yes, yeah.
We all watched one demo where it looked cool, but honestly, I can guarantee, this may be a hot take. I would say alternate reality where that game came out, basically everything you saw in that demo wouldn't have even been in the final product because that demo was very cinematic. It was very much like E3 demo bullshit, which is cool. Like, I love the concept for that game, but boy, do people talk about that like it was going to be the end-all of Star Wars games.
It was going to be Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Amy Hennig, guys. Amy Hennig.
Yeah, but that's a story.
That one?
Like, she's not she's not making sure the gameplay is fun and not repetitive and whatever. That's like saying, think back to Uncharted, the Charter games. Like, most of us look back now and go, yeah, like, Like the story was always good in them, but like one's hard to play. Two's kind of has elements that are hard to play now. You know, like it's
yeah, no, that's fair.
So as someone who likes all of EA's Star Wars games, I guess to a degree, like I don't love Jedi Fallen Order, but I finished it and I like it's an okay Star Wars game to me. I don't hate it. I just thought it was an okay game. I didn't love it, which is fine. I really liked Battlefront 2. I think that people who rightfully spat it with Battlefront 2 at launch because of the microtransactions have no idea how much work, and that was EA fucking over the developer and a lot of the people who, if you see them on Twitter, developers of that game, how much they loved that game and how hard they had to work to sort of turn the narrative around in that game. And if you boot that up now, it's a fucking fantastic game that has 0 microtransactions. It is nothing like how it launched. When it went up on Epic Games the other week for free, and then it like broke the system as soon as it launched because everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll give it a go," and then everyone was like, "Fuck, this is fun." Because you know what, that game is actually quite a lot of fun if you actually dive in and play. Like it sounds and looks great and plays great. I didn't go back and manage to finish Squadrons for time and whatnot. No, I was enjoying what I was playing of that, and I think EA's problem was a combination of they weren't putting out enough to please people, and EA was carrying a heavy load of being considered the worst video game publisher around at the moment. Now, I'm going to tie this into my potentially hot take here. I'm not happy. I don't look forward to a Ubisoft. Everyone's going, oh boy, Ubisoft, thank God, no more microtransactions. And I'm going, wait.
Oh, no, there will be microtransactions. It's
Jedi
Ubisoft.
Fallen Order had 0. They got rid of them in Battlefront 2. Squadrons had none, right? And Assassin's Creed, the last 2 are fucking filled with them. Divisions, you know, like all of these Ubisoft games recently.
Immortals.
Is full of it as well. It doesn't surprise me. That's my point though. Like Ubisoft is actually, maybe other than 2K, from what even though I don't play the games, from what I say, like they're probably the worst for microtransactions at the moment, to be honest.
But I think for me, the microtransactions isn't the issue. I'm just looking forward to a more, I don't want to say variety, but just something different for a Star Wars game. Like, I don't know why, even though now that you're listing them, there is, you know, Squadrons, Fallen Order, Battlefront. I just feel like there was not enough.
There wasn't, there was only one big single player game and people wanted more of those, is the problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Fallen Order didn't come out till 2019.
Yep.
They've been making them since 2013.
They did fuck all of the license for so long. It took them, and that was because they kept cancelling. People forget, there wasn't just, so everyone likes to go 1313. That was cancelled when Disney brought Star Wars, right? But EA had 2 Star Wars games that they cancelled, maybe even more that we know of, like between that Vicarious Visions one that was cancelled a couple of years ago, like that they showed behind footage of at some point. Like there's probably more that we didn't even know about, so they just didn't release them, which is the problem. Look, I'm just being the
you're trying to be level-headed.
I'm trying to be level-headed for a few reasons, because the other thing I'll say is this: I played both Divisions. I enjoy playing the Divisions. You know what I don't like in the Division?
The story.
The story is fucking terrible. It is basically propaganda to a degree. And I find it so.
Was it propaganda?
Oh yeah, like it is. Like Tom Clancy's writing is very much like.
But that's Tom Clancy's writing, though. That's not. Those issues shouldn't carry over into Star Wars.
Well, hopefully not. But it's hard not to go. Okay, so the team that made the Division is going to make a Star Wars game, and I'm like, okay, so. I'm mildly optimistic. I'll put it like it's not exactly a team that's exciting me from a story point.
It's not even the thing that excites me the most. Isn't even Ubisoft and the team making a game. It is the hope and the opportunity and the possibility for what other studios can now potentially make a Star Wars game.
Yeah,
like what other like I would love like
give me a Cantina simulator.
Like I would love go to an indie dev or like a smaller developer and be like, here's a Star Wars like license for this one. Go fucking at it. Go have some fun. Like
Starship Repair 2019.
Well, the funniest thing has always been that the VR games are always sort of like weirdly outside the bubble. Like, oh, you can make those.
Yes.
EA doesn't have the the pull on those apparently, so I was making those, which for the most part are good. I still haven't played that last one that came out towards the end of last year. I still need to actually go play that. But that's interesting.
Is that the Darth Vader one from last year?
No, it was
I can't. It was droid.
It was droid.
Droid story.
I can't remember the name of it though.
Play as C-3PO.
No, you don't play as him. He's there. he's a character in the
That'll
game.
be very, very limited movement that is probably very easily programmed to VR.
That's why.
Arms, like,
that's why it's in VR, yeah.
If I had to guess, though, what this game will end up being, as much as I would love Ciaran's whole, like, let's make it in the High Republic, I'd be all about that for sure. I'll be very fucking surprised if it's not just set in the Mandalorian timeline to some degree.
Also true.
That seems like the most obvious choice to me personally. Like, that's the thing. If you go to general public Star Wars, people are like, well, some people like the trilogy of movies divided the fan base. What is the one thing that most people seem to be on board with? The people
Mando,
you know, like,
well, everybody kind of
right now.
When you look at right now, but the thing is, at the minute, Mandalorian is the thing that the sequel trilogy should have been. Like, Mando is the thing that breathes more life and further expands the Star Wars universe, and kind of gives more context about the world post Empire.
I mean, does it though?
But it keeps coming back to Star Wars. It keeps coming back to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
that was
odds of Luke Skywalker appearing in this game?
0.
Spoilers. 0. None.
I'm going to say it's a third person, that it's going to be the third person bounty hunter type game, or that everyone wants.
That'd be pretty
that's
cool.
set during like the Mando timeline, where maybe you'll cross over with a couple characters you'll recognize. Maybe you run into fucking Timothy Olyphant's character. I don't know. You know, like that is the thing that makes the most sense to me. If I had to pick a timeline and thing that makes sense, that would be it. The reason I would say High Republic won't happen is because they've only just started fleshing it out. There
won't be like a movie or anything to kind of.
There's not enough
get
material.
the General public involved.
Yeah, like there's not enough.
That's fair.
To get like a game there. I would love for a game in the future to be set there, but yeah. For me, as you're saying, the most exciting thing about this is the idea of someone else doing it. Like, this Ubisoft game doesn't excite me, but the idea of a different studio getting a chance at Star Wars outside of EA and Ubisoft, someone else, I don't know who, that excites me. So we shall see. Hopefully they announce more things, because it's so funny to think back. Even when I was a kid, like, we used to get a Star Wars game, either a movie tie-in or like a random racer or a fucking Street Fighter ripoff. Like,
how good the Phantom Menace tie-in game was. Like, that game was really good on PlayStation 1.
Yeah,
yes,
I think that's probably actually my favorite Star Wars game of all time.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Like, it was such a cool single-player game as well as a really good co-op experience.
I played it with my brother all the time.
I think we had like an after-school club or something that had a PlayStation 1, and that's what was there for us to play in it. It was really good.
Great game. And everyone, it's so funny to think about playing that. I had no idea that. Meanwhile, the internet's on fire with the fanboys at the time. Like, fucking Jar Jar Binks ruined Star Wars. I'm like a kid's like, oh, I fucking love this game.
This game awesome. Play as a Gungan.
Yeah. He's in it for. No, he's in it. Jar Jar's in it for quite a bit.
No, in the new game, I want to play as Gungan.
I'll tell you what, shout outs.
Character select.
What shout outs? There is a Gungan Jedi in the High Republic.
Oh, damn.
It's good shit.
Look forward to our Star Wars podcast coming sometime.
Misa, lighter your saber.
There's been some really weird impressions and accents.
So using the Force.
It's mostly coming from me, but I'm glad Dylan.
Because I listened to an Audible, the guy did it with the Gungan tone with the audible thing. So I was like walking and he showed up for the first time. I just started laughing. It's like, Misa, I think it's good shit. This is why the Audible.
Misa, think the Force be with you.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, this is fucking great. Love this. So the other Lucasfilm tie-in thing was that Bethesda Studios Machine Games has announced that they are making a new Indiana Jones game. And they published a short teaser that doesn't show you fuck all. It's a bunch of Indiana Jones related items on a thing. Kotaku writes that the game will feature an original story and be a collaboration between Machine Games and Lucasfilm Games, with Todd Howard as the executive producer on the project. Bethesda didn't reveal anything further about the game in its brief Twitter thread and wrote, "It'll be some time before it's any more information to share about it."
I look forward to them killing off Martinez so they don't have to have him in this upcoming sequel.
Probably.
No, I just think it's interesting. It's interesting that Bethesda gets this, where it's like we're still waiting on more information about how Bethesda's operating in the future with now being by a Microsoft developer. It's like, okay, so is the indie game just an Xbox?
I fucking hope so.
Game? I hope so. I think they'd be fucking sick.
That's the right choice for them to make. Like when Sony's over here with Uncharted, if they don't take the chance to literally just make the original Uncharted an exclusive for Xbox, I'll be like, what are you doing? Like I'm a Sony guy and I'm telling you to do it. It's the right it's the right business choice to make. Fucking lock off the indie game. As for this, as much as I like Wolfenstein, I can't picture an Indiana Jones game made by Machine Games at all. And I got to be honest, I can't picture an exciting Indiana Jones game that stars Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
No, I think it's got to be. I don't know. This is throwing back to the era of Monkey Island. There was Indiana Jones and the Lost City of Atlantis, which was a point-and-click adventure.
Played it, never finished it. It was too hard.
Available on Xbox Game Pass, is it?
I think so.
Is it really? I did not know that. It's a fantastic game. It is hard because it is classic point and click. You combine this random item with this random item to solve this puzzle here. But that was a fantastic game, and that has nothing to do with with Harrison Ford. So I think if you continue to push Indiana Jones as a character and not Harrison Ford, I think that's the way to go. I think that's like a perfect way to go with it.
I think either it has to be young indie, so it's basically a new character at that point, or they are basing it on whoever's passed the hat in the upcoming film. Because I presume that someone's going to get past the hat that's not Shia because he's been cancelled. So, one of those choices.
I got confused. It's Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb is going to be on Xbox Gold Live.
What's that one?
For February.
I don't think I know that.
It came out 2003.
For Xbox or something?
For Xbox, Microsoft, Windows, PlayStation 2.
Okay. Do not recall that one. Does it have screenshots? Does it look like an action game?
It looks like an action game.
Mm-hmm. Because I guess the problem with
it doesn't look like it's aged well.
It's actually kind of interesting when you think about the next. I know it's weird between them making an indie game and IO Interactive, which I'll talk about in a minute because of Hitman. They're making a James Bond game. It feels like all these. So it's like a sort of a resurgence of not licensed movie tie-ins, but people going, you know what? Let's just try and make good games. And I feel like it all comes back to Spider-Man, personally, like to a degree. I've been like, for years, everyone was like, you can't make good movie-based video games. Everyone, like, they always turned out shit or whatever. No one ever I know you could kind of trace it back to, I don't know, Batman to a degree. Like, there's only a handful of...
I just think it's just showing the viability of not doing these franchises in the old manner they used to, where they used to go to some random lower tier studio, be like, hey,
you have 9 months.
You have 9 months to pump out this game. You don't have the license to use the actual voice actors or the actual actors for this. Go quickly make something and make sure it releases at the same time as the other movie. Like having those crappier tie-in titles that were really bad. I think it's been showing the viability of no. Go put some money and invest in an actual studio to make you an actual game. And don't worry about it being tied into a movie. People will love it and play it and have a greater impact in general for your fan base as well as bringing in more people to enjoy your franchise.
Yeah. Ash, have you watched Indiana Jones?
Yes, I've watched. I've watched all 4 films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I can make the mutt joke. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, Machine Games know how to fight Nazis, so it's got that going for it. You know, I just want to see what the whip physics are like. Are they going to spend 3 years working on how to make the whip feel good? Yeah.
So are you comparing that to like God of War needing working so hard on the axe? Like the whip has to be as good as...
You could also relate it to Last of Us Part 2, where they spent a fuck ton of time, or at least one person did, getting the physics of the rope in that game, and you use it for 2 puzzles in the entire game. One that's mandatory to that early part in the game. And there's another part where you have to to get a collectible, you have to break a window to swing a rope around a lampshade to swing to something.
Yeah,
and that's the only two fucking times I think. Maybe there's one I haven't.
There's probably one. There's a couple more.
Yeah, but either way, someone spent so much time on the rope physics in that game, and it's you use it for the most random things. It's not even a core part of the game.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hitman 3 came out on whatever day. I can't even remember now. Anyway, I've played
20th.
Sounds about right.
It's the 20th. Yeah, whatever day.
I've played the first couple of missions, played a few hours of it. Very much enjoying it. So this is just my early impressions, of course, but I am enjoying it. So to set up, I played Hitman 1, never finished it, never went back. I think that was actually caused by the seasonal release that just
because they went episodic, where they were
but unlike Life is Strange and stuff, it wasn't the sort of I'll sit down and play it like an episode of a TV show. It's it's like a full-on game. It's just I don't really I don't feel like Hitman anymore. I'm kind of over it.
I remember playing the hell out of the first the training level and the first Paris level of Hitman 1, and then just never going back because I just forgot about it in amongst everything else that was coming out and the maps came out.
And then Hitman 2, I don't remember why I didn't care for it. I don't know if there was just a lot happening that year or something. I just never played that either. Hitman 3, those come out a good time to start the year.
Dylan, it's all right to say why you didn't play.
Why didn't I play it? I can't remember. You tell me.
No platinum trophies.
That's actually a very good point. That's
don't waste your time on something with a fucking platinum trophy, buddy Watson.
It's fucking. You should have seen. I when they posted on Twitter that Hitman 3 had a platinum, I was like, wow. I can just imagine me and Buddy going out for drinks tonight, celebrating this.
Sometimes silent process. I
was like, man, I don't even know if I'm going to get to platinum, but fuck, it's just nice knowing that it's there, It's just, you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, so I jumped into Hitman 3. I did, because all the reviews, I didn't get early access. I paid real hard-earned dollars to pick this up on day one. So I did read the reviews and people were like, it's a lot more story in this one. I was like, cool, that's interesting, but also now I have to read up on the story, hey? So then I went on Wikipedia, just did a skim of the plot, and I was like, okay, that's a lot, but sure, cool, I'm kind of up to date. Hitman 3 does open with a couple-minute cutscene that kind of skims through everything, but if you're going to do what I do and just jumping straight through there, having played one or two really, then I would say either find a YouTube video that tells you the story or just read the Wikipedia like I did. But yeah, I mean, it's more of that classic Hitman game play that everyone loves. The first, so is it 2 or 3? I can't even remember that. The first level's kind of set in, I think it's Dubai, and it's this giant tower. And you gotta take down 2 people inside it, and it's a massive area. And I was like, cool, this is this is classic Hitman gameplay where you're swapping outfits, there's many ways to take down your targets. I ended up kind of trapping them both inside of a room, and then instead of just taking them out nicely, I kind of just walked straight up with a knife, stabbed them both on the ground, and then so instead of hiding their bodies, I just left them there for people to find because I was like, it's a fucking badass, I'm gonna walk out of here like a motherfucker. But so far, my favorite level, I think it is the second level. I'm trying to remember if I've played 2 or 3 now, but I feel like I've played 3 actually. But the second level, I think it is my favorite so far. It's weird. It's not even a real Hitman level because it's a murder mystery. You're rocking up.
I've read this.
Yeah, so it's so interesting because you can just play a normal Hitman level, I guess, where you can just walk in and find a person and kill them. But how fucking boring. So you walk in, you get to this sort of mansion thing that's out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, country sort of area. And when you're arriving there, there's private investigators arriving there too. And then Diana or whatever her name and says, Agent 47, find out what the hell he's doing. So you sort of tail him inside the building, sneak around, do these sorts of things. And then you find out he's there to investigate the death of, I think, the person you're coming to kill's brother or something. I can't remember who the fuck it is. Anyway, this person's dead. And they're all ruling it as a suicide. But as I said, the funniest thing is the person you're there to kill is walking around this house. And once you get the private investigator's disguise, the amount of times I could have just straight up killed this woman and just left and finished the mission was plenty. Like I passed it so many times, but at the same time, I'm like, no, like I'm now playing Knives Out. I feel the game or something like that because
you just start putting on that thick Texas accent.
I mean, it kind of literally was though because I first go into this room. That's what I'm saying. It's the weirdest Hitman level because I go into the room where the body's dead. And I'm scanning it with my camera and you're finding clues and you're looking at the wine bottle for poison and you're tracking all these bits of evidence and all this sort of thing. And then you go around the house, this massive mansion, and you're literally interviewing every one of the relatives. And, it's like a younger son who's like the hip sort of cunty one from fucking Knives Out or something. And then you've got, the older sister and like it's massive family. I think you have to interview like 5-6 people. I'm like, tell me this is not somewhat inspired by Knives Out. And it doesn't have like quite the punch or the comedic value that Knives Out has, but I still felt like I was playing Knives Out, the video game. And then after all this, you can there's several times where you could frame it on the wrong person or all this weird stuff. And I kept being like, man, this is so weird. Like, and then after an hour or so, I finally finished the level and I end up killing my target by, I go up there, tell her, because I figured out who killed the person, which I won't spoil because, I don't want to spoil who actually killed the person, what's going on. But I tell this woman what's actually happened. And then she's like, well, what?
Who done it?
Yeah, I was like, here's who's done it. Like, I tell her in her office. And then she's like, well, what do you want for your reward? Do you want cash, this, or whatever? And you can ask her for the file on the person you're actually trying to find in Hitman 3, like the big head honcho of the evil organization or something. So you ask her for the file and she's like, oh, I knew you would come for me, but I didn't think you'd help me solve a murder before trying to kill me or something like this. I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And then she like gives you the file and she walks off. And I was like, because she just walks out onto this balcony and I'm like, then Diana in your ears like, well, you should still probably kill her. I'm like, okay. So I just walk out, push her off the balcony. She falls to her death and I just walk out. No one gives a fuck. Everyone's like, oh, she fell. I'm like, I just solved this murder.
She just fell off the balcony.
Yeah. I'm like,
she threw herself off the balcony after I told her the truth.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I was like, I just spent an hour playing Hitman 3, where I was really playing private investigator for an hour, only to finally kill someone by going, oh, whoopsie. I was like, what the fuck is this game? Anyway, so.
But that sounds fantastic, though. Like, that sounds like a really cool thing, because, like, you could have probably finished the mission super quickly, like, and been like, all right.
That sounds promising for what they're doing next.
Yeah, that
definitely.
I think between that and the fact that so in the first level where you're playing the Dubai level, you start it on like the side of the building, and you got to climb up this like skyscraper on the side of the building. It feels very like spy Mission Impossible / James Bondy type feeling stuff. And then in that one where you're like interviewing all these people and sort of mingling in this house and doing all these sorts of things, I was like, you know what? Like, I was kind of at first being like, I don't know if they could do I don't know if Hitman translates well to sort of James Bond, but so far from what I'm playing for Hitman, I'm like, yeah, I'm way more excited for this James Bond game after having played this one for sure than I was based off Hitman 1.
The only thing that was made me, I don't want to say reluctant, but the thing that kind of made me a bit wary about purchasing this game on release was when I found out there was only like 6 missions or 6 levels in this game. And I understand that now Hitman is about replayability with doing the same missions different ways or having different challenges on different maps. But still, 6 felt like a bit of a kind of limited amount.
The first, I think the first 2 basically had the same amount or whatever. So it's not.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I mean,
right.
That's the thing. Like, so for instance, I spent over an hour playing Private Eye when I could have killed that person by just shooting them or whatever.
Yeah.
And the game gives you, challenge lists and stuff. It's like, shoot the person while they're doing this, or like in the first, there's one thing in Dubai where I killed both the people in the room. For all I know, when I start the mission, these 2 people I got to kill in complete opposite places. And one of the challenges says to kill them while they're skydiving. And I'm like, how the fuck do I make them skydive? Like,
you just go in, change the schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we don't skydive.
I mean, maybe it could be as simple as that. That's the thing. Like, I honestly could have, when I finished that first level, the Dubai level, I could have probably just clicked replay, and I wanted to click replay because by the time you finish it, the amount of opportunities you've seen for different routes, but then you kind of just stick to the one you've started on. You're like, I'll go about finishing it this way, because there are like story sort of ways to finish it that gives you, it's like, you should try doing it this way, kind of handhold you a little bit.
That's one of the things where I guess in the previous ones, from the limited amount of I play them or watch other people play them, where you can make decisions, but that doesn't really seem to feel like narrative impact or like impact on the world around you from your decisions. Whereas everything I read about this one is the fact that because of the way it is set up, there is impact on the world around you from your decisions in game. Like there are different events that are happening and stuff like that, which I'm like,
yeah, well,
that's really cool. Like,
so in that first level, those 2 people I killed. I know look, we're talking about Hitman 3, so if you haven't read the Wikipedia by now for a spoiler for Hitman 2, here we go. So I can't remember who it was, but like in Hitman 2, I think it was or something, if this person who was like trained in an orphanage where Agent 47 was or something, he finds him. So I can't remember if he was his brother or not. Fucking, I don't know. Maybe it was just a young friend or something. Anyway, Agent 47 lost his memory. He gets his memory back and remembers him. Anyway, they're friends now. And at the start of this game, when you're infiltrating this tower in Dubai, you're trying to get revenge on these 2 people or whatever. And the way I did it was when I trapped him in the room, that other dude like appeared on a television screen in the middle of the room and like gave him a whole message and was like, hey, I'm here to fucking kill you. We're going to extract our revenge, sort of one of these things. And as soon as you see stuff like that, I'm like, well, if you choose to finish this story by not doing the like story way and you just like kind of go for cheap, cheesy kills, you're missing out on the cool story stuff. But I guess like more power to you. It's like, you can do whatever you want because it obviously takes longer to do them the way it wants you to within the story. You have to do a lot more fucking around and like in that level I had to hack into things and all this other sort of shit, whereas you could just be like, well, I'll throw a coin and I'll get him to like hide in a corner and be like, oh, the AI is not going to see me. Whoop, you're dead. Like
I couldn't help but when the first level was kind of revealed to be Dubai, I couldn't help but hope that there was a lot of I couldn't help but like think, man, like Mission Impossible references or Fast and Furious references. I'm like, if Agent 47 gets to jump a car from one tower to another tower, I'm sold.
Not that I've had so far, but maybe I'll dive back in.
Maybe you just haven't found the right room.
I haven't found the right room. It's true. I possibly haven't.
There's how many floors in the building?
Like you've got to like your first step is you go and you fight Ronda Rousey in the bedroom while you're stealing the codes from there. And then you enter the safe room with the platinum gold-plated Bugatti, right? And then it's a whole setup.
Ciaran, it's all about family. Available now on the podcast.
I appreciate this is the first Arcade Couch of 2021. I think we've plugged. That's the 3rd show at this point, so fucking plug nation over here. But no, I am really enjoying it, and it's I would say. Because I think Ash to a degree is like, oh no, like stealth game, not really my thing. And I feel like that's, some people get turned off by the stealth thing. I feel like there's enough hand holding if you want it. And if you can even put it on the easier difficulty where it's like, well, you can just enjoy the memes. Because some of the depths you get to do, like, so I replayed the tutorial for this, even though I did it for the first one. It's the exact same tutorial from the first game, but I just replayed it because I was like, I'll reacquaint myself.
Oh, the one on the boat?
Yes,
the
so you do
one?
that.
I really enjoyed that anyway because I did that.
And then there's a level after where you got to kill this dude that's like in a jet plane. I don't know if you remember that, but it's all like fake tutorial.
No, I do remember that. Yeah.
So for example, that's a funny one where if you do it the right way, you like rehook up the ejector seat and then you lead this dude down. You're like, hey, just get in the jet plane.
Yes,
We're just gonna
you force him to test it. Yes.
You're like, hey, just strap your seatbelt on.
Like, you have to like play it with like a chess game as well in another one and like win the chess game or like there's all sorts.
So there's like so many. It's Hitman's a weird game where it's like ultra serious at times, like global conspiracy and all this stuff, but then if you look on Twitter, you're seeing pictures of people dressed up in clown outfits, fucking shoving bananas in people's throats to kill them. So it's a weird game. It's at times a rather interesting and weird game.
So what's the story? You get the previous 2 games with this one, or
no? So you can play 1 and 3's levels in this if you own them, or else you have to buy them. So it's just more of you can play those levels in this one with the upgraded visuals and frame rate.
It's a platform.
Yes.
To be able to.
Yes. And you can get all the trophies for them as DLC as part of this one if you're chasing that sort of thing.
Those platinum?
No, they're just DLC, which I appreciate that they kept Hitman 3's trophy list separate to get the platinum, and those ones were just DLC. Okay. So that all adds up. But anyway, cool. I'm enjoying Hitman 3. I'm glad I picked up, and I think it released at a good time of the year. If it released at if it released next to something else that I cared more about, I may not have played it. So Kind of glad that it did.
It's kind of open season at the moment. So it's out at the best. January's like a good port.
It is.
Put something big out. Filling that Resident Evil hole.
Definitely. And with the 6 levels or whatever, it's like I can tell that I'm gonna finish the. You're gonna finish the story very quickly if you're just doing it level, but then you'll still have so many challenges and ways to kill the people in all the other levels. And that is, it's not like a forced replayability. It is something that you want to do. You know, you're not like, oh, I better do this. It's like you want to do.
And I think IO Interactive did a really good job of improving the replayability of those games. Like I remember I think Hitman 1, one of like the special targets was like Gary Busey, or for Hitman 2, I think they had Sean Bean was a target in another one. Like I think they do really good.
I presume they're going to do stuff like this for this one, just not at launch week, I presume. Yeah. Because I know you can make your own contracts, do other people's contracts or something like that. So I just haven't touched any of that stuff yet.
They do that.
I look forward to seeing a bunch of influences in the game for you to assassinate.
Well, get Ninja in this.
Like there was one where I think there was an Achievement Hunter video where one of the cast members fried a bunch of people like via electricity via a puddle. And then IO Interactive included a reference to it in like one of the next missions. As somebody talking about it. I was like, that's really cool. That's a really cool little kind of...
I guess that's the benefit of releasing those episodically, is that you can't... they got to react to people's likes and dislikes about the other levels and and do things. But I mean, this is the 3rd one, so I feel like at this stage they were just... We got this. Also, the weirdest thing about this is they self-published this one, and the others were like published by. Oh no, it's this Hitman trilogy
by Square Enix and
Warner Brothers was Love One. Yeah, so it's like this trilogy's been published by 3 different people at this point, which I was like, that's kind of weird, but sure, here we are. Anyway,
whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's the first episode of Arcade Couch for 2021. You can let us know any questions you have or comments about the show by either tweeting at us or joining our Discord, of course. You can find our Twitter handles by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You can find our Discord by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you liked this episode and thought it was worth $1, you should head over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnetwork.com/support and buy us a coffee. Thank you very much. And until next week, we'll see you here, same couch, same time for the rest of the year. We're back into it. That sounds evil. Bye.
More accents.
I think French people are okay.
Yeah, they're known for their sense of humor, so it's all good.
All I know is about their economy built on white flag sales and the factories around it, and croissants. Yeah.
Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.